Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Have you ever considered how much the SNP is costing you when it has to go and lose court cases? 9 cases it's had, and it's lost all 9. And they've racked up quite a bit in fees and likely to increase. This is money that could have been better spent elsewhere, and all it took was a little bit of common sense to admit you weren't going to win the case. And what's more worrying, I suppose, is the fact that they never publish the legal advice they took before going to court. Because we know the legal advice will probably be, don't go to court, you're going to lose. And if that is the case, then that money really ought to be charged to whoever made the decision to go to court. It shouldn't be the Scottish taxpayer paying for their legal follies. Let's have a look and see how much it's costing and why they should pay and not the taxpayer. Here goes. Now, it really is an astonishing amount of money being spent here, because the Scottish Government is slammed for racking up nearly £8 million of taxpayers' money on doomed court cases. And you have to wonder, as I say, how many of these were never going to be won, but were done purely for political reasons, purely to help out the Greens or show the Greens how willing they were to try and push these madcap ideas. The gender reform bill, for example, cost millions, and it's going to utterly evaporate. It's money gone. And he won't publish the advice. He said he would not take this to court unless the advice said they could win. He went to court and he lost. So he should have no problem at all in publishing that legal advice. And yet, he has not published the legal advice. And we know why, don't we? New figures show the SNP ministers have shelled out huge numbers on controversial cases, such as a Supreme Court battle on independence and employment law, and all sorts of problems. It's, like I say, everything. They keep doing it and they keep knowing they're going to lose, but they do it anyway because they want to make it look as though they're doing something. Well, they are. They're pissing money away. The Scottish Government has been slammed for racking up a multi-million-pound bill on doomed court battles. And it's been revealed that taxpayers have been left with a £7.6 million legal bill due to a series of failed battles launched by SNP ministers. Battles they knew they couldn't win. The legal advice in every single case would be that you would lose. And we know that because they refused to publish the legal advice. If the legal advice was, oh, you're most likely to win, you know that would be out in a heartbeat. But it isn't, because it didn't. Figures obtained by the Mail on Sunday show the huge sums shelled out as Scottish Government look to push through a raft of controversial, madcap, stupid policies. The statistics only include cases where legal costs topped $50,000, meaning the actual bill is likely to be even and possibly much higher. The final tally also doesn't include how much money ministers spend on their own in-house legal advice. The millions spent on court cases comes as the cash-strapped NHS is swamped by huge waiting lists, and while Scottish councils claim they're on their knees financially due to a lack of funding from Holyrood. Holyrood will always find money for independence or for court cases or for sending people around the world to junkets they're not invited to. But when it comes to spending on what people need, oh, the cupboard is particularly bare. The only bones in the SNP cupboard are the ones being given to their lovers, it seems. Last night, critics slammed the SNP for wasting taxpayers' cash on political vanity projects rather than on much-needed public services. Tory MSP Donald Cameron said, "These eye-watering figures demonstrate the extent to which the taxpayer is being fleeced by the SNP government for often needless legal bills." Like I say, bills on cases which don't actually benefit the people of Scotland, which are expensive, pointless and stupid, and as I say, are likely always to have been non-winners before they even go to court. They know this. He said much of this $7.6 million has been racked up on self-indulgent and ultimately doomed SNP cases, such as the Supreme Court bid to hold another independence referendum, defending the reckless and overreaching gender self-ID bill, and the challenge over the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. That was a desperate one for them. They ultimately did not like losing that because the UN said, no, 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 it would be quite wrong for you to do to children what you intend to do to children. He added, this money would have been far better spent on key public services, which are facing brutal cuts under the SNP's budget, instead of being squandered on picking legal fights with the UK government. But that's all they have. They are a one-trick pony. They can only find differences with the UK government in the vain hope that people will be convinced that that means that the SNP were right and that Scotland needs to be independent. But of course, the majority of people see straight through this terrific bullshit that they're putting out. And they just go, no, what is actually wrong with you? I think for most SNP voters, they are self-delusional. They must surely see what's going on. But because the facts are at variance with what they want the world to be, they quite literally ignore the facts. It is easier to be fooled than to believe that you've been fooled. You know, and it's very hard for people who've been fooled all their life into believing this kind of stuff to suddenly realise that they were wrong, because admitting you were wrong is hard. And so they knowingly continue with this belief that they're right, even though deep down they know it isn't. But that's the delusion of the loser, I'm afraid. Anyway, data released under the Freedom of Information laws showed the SNP government spent 7.6 million on legal costs in the last 5 years, and that's in 30 cases. Legal advice was sought, which led to fees of more than 50,000 being racked up. The largest spend was on employment law disputes, totalling more than £1.2 million. Lawyers were also drafted in after the Scotch Whisky Association challenged the minimum unit pricing policy. Fees for that case, which ended up at the Supreme Court, totaled nearly £500,000. They're always going to lose, aren't they? They're always going to lose because they are ultimately losers. Meanwhile, fighting against feminist group For Women Scotland's judicial review over gender reforms cost ministers nearly 200,000. The figures show a total of 132,000 went towards defending the continuity bill, a legal mechanism passed by SNPs in defiance of the Brexit bill. Former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon pushed ahead with the legislation in March 18, despite Holyrood's presiding officer at the time, Ken McIntosh, advising it was beyond the Parliament's remit. The UK government took the case to the Supreme Court, which ruled that the bill was out with the powers of Holyrood. She fought for it and she lost, but she knew in advance she was going to lose because it's actually written into the Scotland Bill from 1999. So it was never going, or 1998 was the bill, wasn't it? It was never going to stand. The law is clear, but she didn't like the law. Unfortunate for her, and she lost and cost you money. SNP ministers also spent £251,000 on their legal bid to hold a second referendum with Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain representing the Scottish Government at the Supreme Court in October 22. In a unanimous decision a month later, judges ruled Holyrood cannot hold an independence referendum without Westminster's approval. Again, written into the Scotland Act. A Scottish Government spokesman said the Scottish Government is necessarily involved in litigation given the range and importance of the responsibilities. If it is, then publish the legal advice. And if you cannot publish the legal advice, you know you are going to lose. And it's as simple as that. And if you think the legal advice will remain hidden forever, then you are very, very much mistaken. It will be released. Anyway, I shall round off there, come up and we'll finish. But it goes to show, I think, that these people are quite happy wasting your money on their vanity projects. Coming up. It seems there's no limit to the amount of money they will spend. They seem to like spending it, but of course they will. It's not their money. And all you SNP voters, you must be really happy that they're wasting all this money on that instead of, hospitals, schools, the future of your children, not having an infrastructure that's worthy of a modern day world. They're turning it into a third world cesspit, and you are happy for that to happen because you keep voting for them. But hey, you get to live in the world you choose, and if you want some third world dictatorship, one party Marxist state where everything is shit and you're all living in poverty and misery, then keep voting for the SNP. After all, it's not as though you care for what world your children go into, is it? It's about time you got off your asses and Ceausescu'd these people and made a better world. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.